I never thought a quiet Tuesday afternoon would shatter my reality. The sun hung low over Los Angeles, casting an amber haze through the car windshield. I was running late, again. The baby had spit up on my shirt, the dog chewed through another pacifier, and the sink was filled with bottles I hadn't washed. Sarah had asked me to pick up the family portraits from the photography studio. She said they were a gift for her parents, something to make them feel closer to their granddaughter. The moment I stepped into the studio, I noticed the heavy scent of photo paper chemicals, sharp and oddly nostalgic, like high school darkrooms. The bell above the door chimed, but no one came out. I waited at the counter, shifting from foot to foot, glancing at the framed black and white shots on the wall, vintage weddings, newborns curled in blankets, beaming families. Then it buzzed, a short, chirping tone. A tablet on the counter lit up. It must have been the photographer's device, left unlocked and open on a thread of recent messages. I looked away, then back again. Just one line glowed on the screen, and it caught my eye because of her name. Sarah, wish I could have stayed longer last night. You make me feel like someone again. The text wasn't addressed to me. My mouth went dry. The taste of old cigarette smoke clung to my tongue, from a man I'd passed outside on my way in. My stomach knotted. I tried to swallow, but the muscles in my throat were stuck. I could have left. Should have, maybe. But I stood there, frozen, until I heard a voice behind me. Sorry about that, printer jam, the photographer said, rounding the corner with a practiced smile. It was him. Jason. Fit, handsome in a casual, tousled way. The kind of man who makes other men feel like paper. He didn't know I'd seen the message. I nodded, barely managing a hello, then paid for the framed photos while my heart pounded like it wanted out of my chest. Your wife has a great eye for color, he said, wrapping the frame in brown paper. She's got taste. Yeah, I said. She used to say the same about me. I don't remember driving home. I pulled into the garage and sat in the car for 10 minutes, engine off, holding the wrapped frame on my lap. It felt heavier than it should have. Like it carried more than pictures. Inside, our baby napped in her crib. The sound machine hummed ocean waves through the monitor. The house smelled faintly of baby powder and the lavender lotion Sarah always used on our daughter. It was peaceful, eerily so. A still life of everything I thought I understood. I placed the photo frame on the counter without unwrapping it. I didn't want to see our smiles. Not yet. Instead, I walked out back and lit a cigarette, one I hadn't touched in almost 5 years. It tasted like regret and rust. My hands shook as I exhaled, thinking about the text. Thinking about how long it had been since Sarah looked at me that way. Or if she ever did. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. That would come later, if at all. For now, I stood under the dimming sky, flicking ash into the wind, and made a decision I didn't know I was capable of. I would not fall apart. I would not chase or beg. I would not lose everything, especially not my daughter. And I would find out the truth. They say hindsight is 20/20. But I think it's crueler than that. In hindsight, I see every little moment I missed. Every red flag I chose to fold into origami excuses. Sarah and I met 7 years ago at a charity run in Santa Monica. She tripped over a curb near mile 3 and I caught her before she hit the pavement. That's how we began, me trying to keep her from falling. We were good, once. Not just on the surface. We laughed easily. She loved indie films and spicy food. I couldn't stomach the heat, but I still cooked her jalapeno omelets on Sundays. We painted the baby's room together before she was even pregnant, lavender walls, little stenciled moons. When she was on bed rest in the 3rd trimester, I read to her from baby books and rubbed her feet until she fell asleep. But after the baby came, everything shifted. At first, I chalked it up to exhaustion. Parenthood hits like a freight train, no sleep, no space, no quiet. I tried to help. Took night shifts, packed lunches, folded laundry on my lunch breaks. But something in Sarah faded. Not instantly. Not dramatically. Just, gradually. Her smiles started to feel hollow. Her hugs became distracted. When I asked how she was doing, she'd always answer, fine, and then drift away behind her phone screen. I remember the first night something truly unsettled me. It was late, close to 11 p.m., and I'd just come out of the baby's room after a long stretch of rocking. Sarah was in the kitchen, whispering into her phone. When I stepped in, she flinched and locked it immediately. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah. Just Jenna. She's going through some stuff." I nodded. I trusted her. Weeks passed. She started going for walks more often. Long ones. Sometimes after dinner. One day I noticed her perfume was stronger than usual. Another day, I caught her humming in front of the mirror, something she hadn't done in months. Then came the receipts. Small things. An Uber to somewhere in West Hollywood when she said she was at the park. A florist charge, $74, when we hadn't bought flowers in years. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Something told me to wait, to watch. So I started looking closer. One night while she was in the shower, I scrolled through her tablet. The messages had been deleted, but not the browser tabs. One was open to a photography website, Jason's. The same Jason from the studio. I clicked deeper. There was a password-protected gallery labeled, Private, Sarah. My chest tightened. I didn't know the password, but I didn't need to see the photos. The label was enough. The next day, I met up with my oldest friend, Mark. He'd known me since college, through all my dumb decisions and better instincts. "You think she's cheating?" he asked bluntly after I explained everything. "I don't know. I don't want to think that." "But you do." I nodded, staring at my coffee. The foam pattern had collapsed into a blur of brown. Mark leaned forward. "You need to be smart about this. Don't go nuclear. Yet. Gather facts. Stay calm. You have a kid now. Everything's different." He was right. So I started keeping records. Quietly. Every receipt. Every suspicious message preview. I took photos of the phone logs, the Uber rides. I created a folder on my computer, encrypted it. Titled it something forgettable, taxes_2024. The strangest part. Once I began documenting, I stopped feeling helpless. I was still hurting, but I was moving. I was doing something. I started talking more with Sarah's friend Leah, too. Carefully. "She's been off lately," I told her one afternoon when I bumped into her outside the grocery store. Leah hesitated. "She has a lot on her plate." "Yeah. Do you think she's happy?" Leah looked away. "I think she's confused." That told me more than she intended. The final push came 2 weeks later. I overheard Sarah on the phone again, this time not whispering. She was in the backyard, pacing, laughing softly. "Of course I think about that night," she said. "You looked at me like I mattered. Like I was more than a mother or a wife." She hung up just before walking back inside. I acted like I was rinsing bottles. She didn't notice my hands were trembling. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay beside her and stared at the ceiling. Her breathing was soft, peaceful. I used to find comfort in that sound. Now it made my stomach churn. In the quiet dark, I realized what I had to do. Not lash out. Not scream or accuse. I had to plan. I didn't shout. I didn't smash anything. That's not who I am, and it wouldn't have helped. What I felt the morning after discovering Sarah's betrayal wasn't rage. It was a cold, persistent current of clarity that settled into my bones. Something had cracked in me, but instead of falling apart, I started making lists. Lists gave me control. The first list was simple: protect the baby. Protect myself. Prepare for impact. I called Paul, my brother, a man who's lived most of his life 3 steps ahead of disaster. Former Army intelligence, now a cybersecurity consultant. I didn't give him the full story at first, just told him I needed advice on backing up messages without tipping off a spouse. He didn't even hesitate. Use the shared cloud. Quietly export everything. And get a lawyer. Yesterday. He was right. By noon, I was sitting in the corner booth of a coffee shop across from Eleanor Brooks, a seasoned family law attorney who'd helped a friend through a messy divorce. She didn't offer false comfort, and I appreciated that. "Do you want custody?" she asked. "I want what's best for my daughter. And that means a father who isn't manipulated, gaslit, or shut out." Her nod was curt and businesslike. "Then we build a file. Not emotion, evidence." That same evening, I took the old Canon DSLR from the storage box in the garage, the one Sarah used to photograph our daughter every month, and set it up in our home office. It looked like a prop. What she didn't know was that it now had a motion-triggered recording system in the lens, feeding footage directly to my secure drive. Within a week, I had backups of everything: her texts with Jason, several showing hotel room confirmations, one where she wrote, "Can't wait to be wrapped in you again." There were call logs, screenshots of Airbnb receipts from San Diego, and 2 Uber charges that didn't match any business meetings. Meanwhile, I documented my life as a father. Diaper logs. Feeding schedules. Photo evidence of doctor visits I attended alone. I wasn't compiling this out of bitterness, it was protection. If she decided to paint me as unstable or uninvolved, I wanted an airtight counter. Therapy was the next step. I reached out to Dr. Rebecca Langston, a psychologist I'd seen years ago after my mother died. This time, our sessions focused less on grief and more on emotional discipline. "She didn't just betray you," Dr. Langston said during one session. "She betrayed the family you were trying to build." Exactly. "And I won't let that destroy my daughter's future." I wrote that sentence down. It became my mantra. Mark, my closest friend since college, offered something else: practicality. He brought over folders of custody laws, printouts on shared asset statutes in California, and even examples of what judges considered parental stability. He wasn't a lawyer, but he was thorough. "You're playing a long game," he told me one night, drinking ginger ale on my porch. "You're doing everything right. Just don't get sloppy when it gets emotional." That was the hardest part. Staying cold while everything inside me burned. Sarah was out more often now. Her lies had become sloppier, the meeting ran long, my phone died, I'm just overwhelmed, each one landing with a hollow thud in my ears. I didn't confront her. Not yet. The more she talked, the more rope she handed me. I made copies of all our financial statements. Moved half of our savings to a separate account under my name, following every legal guideline Eleanor had mapped out. I wasn't hiding funds, I was securing my half before she could. Then came the insurance changes, notarizing my will, and officially designating my brother as an emergency contact for our child. Every move was methodical, calculated. I even updated the baby monitor to stream to my phone. It wasn't paranoia anymore, it was preparation. One night, Sarah walked in wearing a new blouse. I hadn't seen the receipt for that one. She smiled, almost wistfully. "Long day," she sighed, sitting across from me. "You've been quiet lately." "Just focused," I said, folding the napkin beside my plate. "A lot on my mind." She reached out and touched my hand. It was such a strange moment, almost tender. I didn't flinch. I just stared at her wedding ring. A ring that didn't mean what it once had. I started sleeping in the guest room soon after. She didn't ask why. By then, I had compiled a full case folder. Eleanor said it was enough to justify joint custody and a fair division of assets, especially given that she had left the child alone with me for multiple weekends under flimsy pretenses. In California, that mattered. I knew the confrontation was coming. I didn't dread it. I welcomed it, like a patient turning toward surgery after years of dull pain. But it had to be timed precisely, when I was strongest, not a moment before. So I waited. And while I waited, I built myself again. I jogged 3 mornings a week. I cut caffeine. I took my daughter to the zoo and the park and kept receipts. I kept a journal, not of feelings, but of facts. When she left, when she returned, what she said. There was an old photo of us at the Grand Canyon. I found it while packing some of her framed prints into boxes. We looked so young then, before careers, before the baby, before Jason. I almost put it aside. But instead, I placed it in a folder marked Final. That photo would come with me to the lawyer's office. A symbol. Not of the love we had. but of the trust she shattered. The confrontation didn't come with shouting or slammed doors. That would have made things easier. Noise can drown truth. Instead, it played out in quiet tones and sharpened glances across a long conference table at the law office on Wilshire Boulevard. A sterile setting for a deeply personal collapse. Sarah sat at one end, her posture stiff but composed, as though she were trying to inhabit the shell of someone more prepared. Her lawyer, a tight-lipped woman with a beige folder and zero warmth, whispered something to her. Sarah didn't respond. She just stared at me. I'd rehearsed this in my head 100 times. I wasn't here for drama. I was here for the truth to land like stone on glass, quiet, absolute, irreversible. My attorney, Eleanor, slid a thick folder across the table. We're prepared to present financial records, text logs, hotel transactions, and corroborating statements from mutual acquaintances. Sarah's eyes flicked to the folder but didn't open it. This feels excessive, she said, her voice frayed. You went through my life like a detective. I had to, I said evenly. You stopped letting me in. Then I laid out the photographs. Screenshots of text messages between her and Jason, the family photographer who'd been hired for our daughter's birthday shoot. Him complimenting her, telling her how he wished the day had ended with just the two of them. Her replies, full of subtle longing. Then came the rideshare receipts. The hotel invoices in her name. A message confirming a room reserved just hours after our third couples counseling session. Her lawyer stiffened. Sarah's breath caught. Still, no denial. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone, she said, finally. You did anyway, I replied. That's the part that matters now. There was a long silence. Eleanor began to go through custody proposals. Shared parenting time. Scheduled visits. Property division. I nodded. The financials no longer rattled me. I'd already accounted for what I'd lose, what I'd already lost. Then I reached into my bag and placed a small silver-framed photo on the table. Us, standing at the edge of the Pacific, arms wrapped around each other, our daughter tucked between us. A memory now trapped under glass. I want you to take this, I said. To remember that even if you gave it up, it was real once. She didn't reach for it. She just looked at it. And I saw the flicker of pain she was too proud to voice. Then she whispered, I'm sorry. I nodded, not with forgiveness, but with finality. And we signed the papers. The final judgment came on a gray Thursday afternoon. The courtroom was nearly empty when the judge delivered the terms. Joint custody, with primary residence granted to me. Sarah had agreed to that much after her attorney explained how the evidence might play out in a full hearing. There would be no trial. No drawn-out spectacle. Just signatures and silence. She gave up the house, too. Said it had too many ghosts in it anyway. I didn't respond. Some things are better left hanging in the air. After the papers were filed, I returned to my home and sat in the kitchen, surrounded by echoes. The fridge still hummed the same tune, and the scent of jasmine from the backyard wafted in through the open window. For a while, I just listened. I expected relief to flood in. It didn't. What came instead was space. A quiet sort of clarity. The kind that doesn't feel triumphant but honest. Over the next few weeks, I rebuilt routines, not just for our daughter, but for myself. I started going to the gym again, early mornings before the sun was up. I dusted off my old acoustic guitar, the one I hadn't touched in years, and strummed until my fingers hurt. I called people I'd let drift, college friends, my brother in Phoenix, an old colleague from my internship days. Most of them picked up. Our daughter adjusted faster than I did. Kids are resilient like that. We baked cookies on Sundays, tackled puzzles on rainy days, and I read her the same bedtime story every night, even when she asked for the long ones twice. Her laughter didn't feel haunted. It was real. It became my favorite sound in the world. Sarah called occasionally, usually about drop-offs or scheduling conflicts. Her tone was polite, cautious. I kept things short. Not cold, just measured. There was nothing left to salvage between us, and we both knew it. One Saturday morning, while organizing the garage, I came across a box labeled, Family Albums. Inside, I found the silver-framed photo I'd brought to the mediation. The one she hadn't taken. I'd left it behind that day, assuming someone would toss it or file it away. Somehow, it found its way back to me. I placed it on a high shelf, behind the old camping gear. Not out of bitterness, but as a reminder. Of what was. Of what I survived. A few months later, I started a small blog, anonymously at first. I called it, After the Fall. Just short entries about co-parenting, about healing, about regaining the rhythm of life. To my surprise, people read it. Some commented. Some emailed. Strangers, mostly men, who were where I had been, numb, betrayed, paralyzed. They wrote things like, "Thank you for saying what I couldn't," or "Reading this helped me breathe again." I replied to every message. What started as a private outlet turned into something communal. I wasn't just moving forward, I was helping others do the same. That felt like real justice. Not revenge. Not payback. Just balance, slowly restored. One evening, after putting our daughter to bed, I stepped outside onto the porch. The air smelled like rain and clean pavement. I closed my eyes and listened. No echoes. No bitterness. Just peace.